Okay, my name is Lisa Flaherty. I'm interviewing Annemarie Schwarzkopf for Georgia State University's Women's March on Oral History Project. The date is May 5th of 2017, and the interview is taking place at the Georgia State Library Special Collections Office. All right. So, your name, Annemarie Schwarzkopf?
Annemarie Schwarzkopf.
Yes. What year were you born in?
1949. I'm 68.
And where were you born?
I was actually born in Guayaquil, Ecuador, but moved to the United States when I was 2 or 3. So I'm a naturalized citizen.
So that kind of leads me into the next question. Your family was very political. So can you tell me how that played a part in growing up? And how they were political, I guess, too.
As immigrants and naturalized citizens, they were thrilled to come to the United States and have the opportunities that the United States offered, and have always been very good defenders of the American way of life, and originally were fairly staunch Republicans in the Eisenhower era, but slowly that evolved, and some of the attributes of a German Austrian society came out, especially in respect to taking care of the poor and the needy. So I think we transformed to a more progressive liberal stance, and I've always felt that it is our duty as a citizen of the world to make sure that other people have as much opportunities as we can give them. So that's how it's evolved.
Now, you were talking about the Austrian German background. How's your connection there?
Both my parents are from Austria, or what was the Austrian Empire back then, and all my relatives still live in Germany and Austria, except my son, who's here. He's first generation American, so we are immigrants. And that does influence my way of thinking about the world. I feel more a global citizen, although I'm happy to be an American citizen, but I do feel the world as a whole is what we should be looking at.
So have you been involved in any political activities in the past prior to this?
Well, I went to a very liberal-oriented college in New England, and so, yes, I was part of the late 60s, early 70s movements on campus, and protests and March on Washington, etc., but never since then have I become at all active. I've always voted, but never felt compelled to march in anything.
You say you've always voted. Is that just in national elections or in local elections as well?
Oh, certainly local as well. I do try to research and decide for myself then locally. I think local is very important too.
The marches that you previously participated in, did they focus on any particular political issue, or did they cover many?
Well, it was the war in Vietnam at that time, and our involvement there.
So why did you march in January?
I was, like most people of my ilk, totally shocked and dismayed by what happened on November 8th, and really didn't know what I could do, and was very grateful that I could show my dismay by marching. And it wasn't just one thing. It was the fact that we chose someone to represent our nation who I believe is a very, very poor role model and representative of our country.
So which march did you attend?
The Atlanta March was surprisingly active. I thought we would just have a few people marching, but my goodness, it was very exciting, very invigorating.
So why did you choose the Atlanta March?
I live in Atlanta. It was easy to get to. We took MARTA. I had a group of friends who wanted to go, so it was, I won't say a party, but we were inspired together.
So how many went with you?
I think we were a group of 4, but we met many people there that we knew, so it got bigger and bigger.
Was there one singular individual that brought the group together, or would you say that it...
It was actually our book club deciding that we wanted to do this. We have a monthly group of women that talk about other things besides books, and so we had heard about it, and I think it just gathered steam, and we decided to go.
So why don't you talk about your expectations, because you touched on that a little bit, your expectations of the march and how it met your expectations, exceeded or did not exceed your expectations?
Well, initially it certainly did meet my expectations. It was a huge show of support of my particular or our particular views, and I saw that I was not alone thinking that this was a ghastly mistake, and there were comments about all the different things that I care about that are now being dismantled, that our current president is taking apart all of the progress that we made. And I was just so happy that it felt like our world was getting better and better until this election, and so to be able to express that felt good, and to be with 60,000 other people feeling the same way and having John Lewis attend, it was inspiring, and I was hopeful that would be the start of something that would change the current circumstances, and I still hope it does. So I guess that's how I feel.
So can you tell me a little bit about the group that traveled with you?
All the ladies were about my age. We all had some sort of pink hat or pink something or other. We carried signs. My sign said, "Make America Think Again." I don't remember what everybody else's signs were. But most of us had marched in the late 60s and early 70s as well, and come out again for the first time in that many years, 40 years or whatever it's been. And so it was just our small group staying together and just enjoying the camaraderie.
Yeah, that was my next question. Can you describe the atmosphere that you
Oh,
came
yeah.
into?
There were people of all ages. There were people of all ethnicities. There were men and women, of course. And it just felt so supportive that we were all feeling the same way, and there were not these great differences among people. That's always a good feeling. I think in the world today there are so many great divides between rich and poor, black and white, just way too many divisions, and this was a way of coming together and feeling unified among a very diverse group. So that was a wonderful feeling.
Did you experience anything negative or counter protests?
No, I didn't see any. Maybe there were some, but I didn't see any at all. It was masses of progressives.
There was one question that I had. Maybe it'll come back to me. So did you hear any chants? You said you had your sign. Were there any other signs you said that you remembered,
there were
or any
tons
chants?
of signs. I can't remember them now.
Do you remember the just the kind of feeling behind the signs? Maybe not the exact verbiage, but do you remember? Did they seem to focus on any particular issue more than another, or?
There were several that had specific. The Planned Parenthood defunding was one I remember. The assault on the environment was another. The rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. I mean, it felt like many of the things that I was thinking were expressed in different ways. So yeah, it was. I didn't notice any one theme other than this has got to change.
Yeah. Now you also mentioned your hat. How did you come about your hat?
Jerry brought hats for everybody. I don't know where she got them. Those little pussy hats.
Yeah.
So we all had one. We all looked equally ridiculous, but it was fun.
Well, what kind of support from family or?
Well, my son was very supportive.
Yeah.
He couldn't be with us. He works in New York, but he's the only family I have here right now. No, I shouldn't say that. I put it on Facebook, and my relatives in Germany also said very good. They're very anti-Trump. And also equally aghast at what we Americans did. Initially when, it's aside I suppose, but I have friends in England too, and when their Brexit vote came out, I said, well, what were you thinking? And then, just a little while later, they came back to me and said, well, what were you thinking? So I got it back.
So while you were at the march, did you see any law enforcement? And what was the relationship between them and the march? Or?
Yeah, not a lot, but there were police lined on streets that were cut off. They were extremely friendly. Most of the demonstrators went up to the police and hugged them and shook their hands and gave them flowers. So it was a little reminiscent of flower power, but they were, it appeared to be supportive.
How did you feel the day after the march?
Oh, I suppose I was still buoyed, but wondering, what is the next step and what can we do? And that was great, but now what? He's still in the White House, and it hasn't really gotten any better. I mean, it's gotten a lot worse.
Have there been any actions you've been able to take, or how have you dealt with it in between time, January to May?
Well, I guess hope. I see what he's doing, and I feel that the momentum seems to be building, sort of a groundswell of momentum from the people. I don't see that happening in Congress, unfortunately, but I'm hopeful still. I read the New Yorker, so I know, I guess I read my echo chamber, but I know there are people that are doing things or saying things that continue the forward momentum. There was just recently an article saying that the 25th Amendment might be invoked if we could prove that he was truly incompetent to serve, and several psychologists are willing to say he has a diagnosis of malignant narcissism, which might serve to remove him. But what have I concretely done? I'm going to try to get John Ossoff elected. That's about all what I can think that I can do locally.
And that's the 6th district.
The 6th district replacement from Price. Mm-hmm. Right.
And what strategies would you suggest to other people to cope with the political changes that have come around?
Well, I think the only pressure we can apply is to our local representatives, and continue to, I certainly did make phone calls when on Facebook you're always implored to do this, that, and the other. I also donate to the Democratic Party judiciously, certainly to John Ossoff. Don't give up hope, but stay in the process. And if there's another march, I missed the one on science, but I know other people who have done that march as well for climate change. I don't know, keep your fingers crossed.
Well, what did you think about how the media covered the Women's March and information thereafter?
I thought there was a lot of good coverage, and of course the media is one of my big concerns, in that it is part of the strategy of the current government to make the general public feel that the media is not speaking the truth, and all the talk about fake news and everything that's going on. I think that's a big concern, that we no longer trust the media. I personally think the media feels obligated to tell the truth as they see it. Perhaps there's some color to that observation that they have, but I think they try very hard to be fair. So the coverage, I thought, was broad and accurate, certainly for the Atlanta March, and it was typical that the president poo-pooed all these people that went out and marched and protested and brought his alternative facts to the media.
Let's see. The speakers. Did you get to hear any speakers?
Not really. That was I guess the only negative thing about the march. We were standing pretty much in the middle of everything, but there was a high hill, and I believe the speakers were on the other side of the hill, and we heard nothing. And we did stand there for a good 45 minutes before we knew anything was going to start or move or what was going to happen. But to be honest, we all had, we talked to each other, we were encouraging each other and supporting each other. It wasn't awful. And then we did see John Lewis come around and knew that it's okay, well, now we're going to start, finally.
Well, so where did you start your march?
It was at the Civil Rights Museum, right there, on that big lawn there. But I think the speakers were up on the other side of it. We were all supposed to be there, and we were, but it was a huge crowd.
So what path did it take after that, or what path did you take?
Through a lot of mud onto the street. What is that, Marietta Street? Whatever street goes right past there, and then up toward the dome, and then across that bridge and past the Russell Building up toward the Capitol. So it ended at the Capitol.
And how long did you spend there?
Oh, several hours. I mean, the whole experience took several hours, not counting the MARTA ride down, which was fun too. There were a lot of people with pussy hats in MARTA, and again, that feeling of camaraderie.
Do you have any intention of going on any future marches?
Yeah, I would. I certainly would. I don't know where to hear about them, though. I guess that would be well, actually, I am part of a Facebook group, something Georgia Social Justice. So I think that's where they would post whether there's going to be one. And as I said, I missed the science one, but I would definitely march again.
And what do you think these marches show the broader public?
How much support there is for the changes we want to bring about. And I hope it shows our elected representatives how much support, because they're the ones that really are going to make these changes. Again, I mean, we have to work through the system, and this is, this kind of starts the ball rolling, and then the calls to or postcards I think we were supposed to write, and all that, through our system. It does have to go through our system. I certainly don't believe in any kind of violent protests.
All right, that's all that I have here. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Any moment that kind of sticks out for the march?
For that march?
Kind of defines it.
It kind of made me feel young again. Remembering when I did march and was even more idealistic. It's nice to know that my idealism has not waned, and it was definitely revived again with Obama, and now I feel like there's something that very important to do, a purpose for each of us who believes that we're in the really, really bad direction right now. So, thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you taking the time and coming on out here.
Sure. That was fun.